आवाज सुना दीजिए। हाँ ठीक है।
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates India's first underwater metro rail service in Kolkata, takes a ride with students. In a major boost to Indian Navy, second naval base INS Jatayu commissioned in Lakshadweep, multi-role Seahawk squadron to be commissioned later today. Trump and Biden dominate Super Tuesday contest as they march towards a rematch. Biden wins 14 states, Trump takes 12. Nikki Haley scores a surprise with Vermont. Israel will allow a similar number of worshippers into Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque as in previous years during Ramadan. Gaza truce talks continue with no sign of breakthrough. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the country's first underwater metro rail service. West Bengal's capital city of Kolkata is where it is located. The new metro line called Howrah Maidan Esplanade section is India's first underwater metro transportation. It passes beneath the Hooghly River, which separates Kolkata and Howrah cities on its east and west banks. Prime Minister also travelled on the newly launched metro service. He interacted with students in the metro. Prime Minister Modi spoke with the metro staff involved in the project as well. A huge crowd had gathered at the metro station to greet Prime Minister, where he arrived to flag off the Howrah Maidan Esplanade metro. Later, Prime Minister Modi addressed a women's rally in West Bengal's Barashat.
कोलकाता की मेट्रो इस बात की भी गवाह है कि बीजेपी सरकार कितनी तेजी से काम करती है। 2014 से पहले के 40 सालों में कोलकाता मेट्रो का सिर्फ 28 किलोमीटर रूट बना था। आपको आंकड़ा याद रहेगा? मैं जो कह रहा हूं याद रहेगा? जरा आप बताएंगे तो पता चलेगा याद रहेगा। 40 साल में 28 किलोमीटर, ओनली 28 किलोमीटर, जबकि बीजेपी सरकार के बीते 10 साल में कोलकाता मेट्रो का 31 किलोमीटर और विस्तार हो चुका है।
DD India correspondent Prashanjit Bakshi joins us live from Kolkata. Prashanjit, Kolkata was the first Indian city to get a metro in India, and now the first city to get underwater metro as well. How is it set to make life easier for commuters?
Yeah, of course. But Shubhendu, I must say that as Indian, we must be we are proud for this engineering wonder. Because you know that Kolkata is the city where we started the first metro in 1984, and now it is 2024 when we started the first underwater metro. And the most satisfying part of this metro is that from Howrah station, those who know the geography of twin city Howrah and Kolkata, they know it better that the railway station of Howrah is just the other side of river Hooghly or river Ganga, whatever we say. And coming from that Howrah station to the city of Kolkata is really challenging, or I must say that was really challenging. From today onwards, it will be a very very healthy for the commuters to avail the parts of the Kolkata from Howrah station. And Shubhendu, I must say that this is a part of East-West Metro, and this East-West Metro ended or begin from the Sector 5, which is the IT hub of Kolkata or Eastern India. So connection of the IT hub with the Howrah station will ease up after this inauguration, Shubhendu.
And Prime Minister speaks of the vision to make Eastern India a growth engine of the nation. In that regard, what kind of development push in the larger context is recorded in West Bengal?
That is what I said, that when the connectivity is developed, this is the proven fact that obviously when connectivity is developed, the encouragement for any sort of development is there for the investors. And when the connectivity of the city like Kolkata, which we say the gateway for the east and northeastern India, if the connectivity of Kolkata is developed, then the investment opportunity for east and northeastern states will develop. And the metro network, which is very rapidly going on under the leadership of the present central government and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it naturally transpires that the development in the coming days, which is the vision of the Prime Minister for the next generation or coming 10, 15 days or till 2047. So this type of development projects will boost up the development of East and Northeastern India. Shubhendu.
Prashanjit, thank you for those updates. The Prime Minister also laid the foundation stones of multiple connectivity projects throughout the country worth $1.8 billion from Kolkata. These projects include Pune Metro from Ruby Hall Clinic to Ramwadi Stretch, Kochi Metro Rail Phase 1 Extension Project, among others. Prime Minister is on a dual visit of Indian states of West Bengal and Bihar on Wednesday to inaugurate various infrastructure projects and address public gatherings. Shifting focus in a major boost for the Indian Navy and India's security infrastructure, the Naval Detachment Minicoy was commissioned as INS Jatayu on Wednesday. The new full-fledged naval base was commissioned by Navy Chief Admiral R. Harikumar at Minicoy in Lakshadweep Islands. The Navy will now deploy some of its assets in the Minicoy Island and will also base personnel there permanently, which was not the case earlier. The event marks an important milestone in the Navy's resolve to incrementally augment security infrastructure at the strategically important Lakshadweep Islands. INS Jatayu is the second naval base in Lakshadweep after INS Dweep Rakshak in Karavati. Minicoy is the southernmost island of Lakshadweep, about 215 nautical miles southwest of Kochi. And in another display of India's maritime prowess, Indian Navy will commission the newly inducted MH-60R Seahawk multi-role helicopters later on Wednesday at INS Garuda in Kochi. The Seahawk squadron will be commissioned in the Indian Navy as INS 334. Helicopters are a part of 24 aircraft FMS contract signed with the US government in February of 2020. The helicopter is designed for anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare, search and rescue operations, medical evacuation and vertical replenishment. The induction aligns seamlessly with Government of India's vision of ensuring security and growth for all in the region. Indian Navy continues to display grit to provide assistance to several merchant vessels in the Western Indian Ocean. In view of the attacks or mishaps, Navy swiftly responded to a drone strike on a Liberian-flagged commercial vessel in the Gulf of Aden on Tuesday. INS Kolkata promptly responded and rescued the Liberian vessel. It was deployed in the region for maritime security operations. The incident comes amid concerns over safety of commercial vessels in the Red Sea due to attacks by the Houthis. The first edition of Naval Commanders Conference of the year is also underway in a hybrid form. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh embarked at sea on Tuesday to witness the Indian Navy's ability to conduct twin carrier operations. During the inaugural session, both the aircraft carriers showcased their ability to safeguard India's maritime interests. The conference witnessed discussion on enhancing tri-service synergy and readiness in defence of the nation and mull over the roadmap for Navy in the current geopolitical scenario. And for more, DD India correspondent Nandita Dagar joins us from New Delhi. Nandita, help us understand the strategic significance of the second naval base INS Jatayu in Lakshadweep.
What happens, Shubhendu, with INS Jatayu is that the Indian Navy gets bigger sea legs, which means that its operational reach is enhanced. This is like a static aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea, just like we have the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago in the east or the eastern seaboard in the Bay of Bengal. This would serve as a launch pad for Indian Navy's operations. The INS Jatayu will serve as a launch pad for Indian Navy's operations, which are currently have gathered so much of momentum in the past 4 to 5 months, ever since Israel has declared a war on Hamas in Gaza, and after that the Houthis have been targeting the merchant vessels, shipping vessels, tankers, oil tankers, cargo ships, etc. And the Indian Navy has also been very, very active. These ships such as INS Vishakhapatnam, INS Kolkata, INS Sharda have been consistently, we are getting news of them thwarting piracy attempts and helping distressed vessels at sea. So for that reason, this is a very, very important step, because this will give more operational reach or make it a even more blue water navy. As Prime Minister Modi has launched this initiative of security and growth for all in the region, it will be able to carry out anti-piracy missions. That means larger sea legs, the ability to operate from much farther away from the land.
Okay, and if you talk about the second big infrastructure push, how will the Seahawks helicopter squadron enhance the operational capability of the Navy?
Yes, before I answer the Seahawks question, I want to mention one point which I missed in the earlier answer. The point is that in Maldives, we do not have a very friendly government in Mohammad Muizzu's government. And that is a very pro-China government. And therefore, India really needed a sea base, a naval base in Lakshadweep, apart from Dweep Rakshak, with a full jetty and extended runway, which can operate P-8I aircrafts and other naval jets, etc., fighter jets, etc. And that is why this INS Jatayu will add more teeth to the Navy. Coming to your question of the MH-60R Seahawks, now they are a naval version of the Black Hawks helicopters, which, as you know, the US operates. In fact, very famously, Osama bin Laden was killed in Abbottabad in May 2011 in a raid by the US Delta SEAL Team 6 when they had boarded a Black Hawk chopper. So you can just imagine how state-of-the-art avionics and navigation, sensors, equipment, weapons they have. They are armed with Hellfire missiles. They too will be able to expand the reach of the Indian Navy, because they have foldable rotor blades, foldable tail blades, and they can be embarked on a carrier, a cruiser, a small destroyer, even an aircraft carrier, of course an aircraft carrier. So they will be, and they are multi-role choppers, which means from medical evacuation to search and rescue to anti-submarine warfare. They can hunt for submarines beneath the ocean, and they can target those submarines, so giving more teeth to the Indian Navy's operational preparedness.
Nanta, thank you for joining us with those updates. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Ukrainian drone strikes a fuel warehouse in Russia's Kursk region a day after it attacked a Russian patrol ship near Crimea. South Korea police to question medical officials over the walkout. And Barbie honors actress Helen Mirren with one-of-a-kind doll.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Let's talk about the US elections. Super Tuesday primary in the United States. Former President Donald Trump swept to victory in statewide nominating contests across the country. Trump won the Republican votes in a dozen states, including delegate-rich California and Texas, brushing aside former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, his lone remaining rival. Her only win came in Vermont. Republicans have overwhelmingly supported Trump despite facing a litany of criminal charges.
They call it Super Tuesday for a reason. This is a big one. And they tell me, the pundits and otherwise, that there's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive. This was an amazing night, an amazing day. It's been an incredible period of time in our country's history. It's been sad in so many ways, but I think it's going to be inspiring because we're going to do something that, frankly, nobody's been able to do for a long time. We've watched our country take a great beating over the last 3 years, and nobody thought a thing like this would be possible. We wouldn't have Russia attacking Ukraine. We wouldn't have Israel being attacked. Iran, as you know, was broke. When I was running things, they were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have money for Hezbollah. We had no inflation. Inflation is destroying the middle class.
And after the Super Tuesday election in November is already almost certain to be a rematch between Trump and President Joe Biden. DD India correspondent Kate Fisher reports from Washington, D.C.
Well, Super Tuesday is often seen as the pivotal day in the presidential primary season, but this year it felt more like predictable Tuesday as Joe Biden and Donald Trump continued their dominance of the Democratic and Republican races, respectively, depriving the elections of the usual suspense. Both men overwhelmingly won their primary contests, continuing their inexorable march towards their party's nominations, and so a rematch for the White House come November. Describing his victory, Donald Trump said it was an amazing day and that there'd never been anything so conclusive. But during his remarks, he didn't mention his remaining rival in the Republican race, former US Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. And the results will be a major disappointment for her, though she did secure the state of Vermont, depriving Trump from a clean sweep. She's always insisted that she would stay in the race until at least Super Tuesday, and it does seem increasingly unlikely that she can continue her campaign for much longer. But she did score victories across urban areas with high numbers of young and college-educated voters, and analysts say that that could suggest a potential weakness for Donald Trump. So both his and Joe Biden's campaign teams will be looking at how they can attract those voters. Many of them are moderate Republicans or independents ahead of November's general election. In a statement, Joe Biden hailed his victories, saying, quote, "Millions of Americans had made their voices heard," and warning that Donald Trump is determined to destroy our democracy. If Donald Trump continues his winning streak, he could be declared the Republican Party's official presidential nominee as soon as March the 12th. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
And now updates related to the Israel-Hamas conflict as delegations hold a third day of talks with no sign of a breakthrough in ceasefire between Hamas and mediators in Cairo, Egypt on Tuesday. US President Joe Biden said it was in the hands of Hamas now whether to accept a deal for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip in exchange for release of Israeli hostages. Negotiators in Cairo are trying to secure a 40-day ceasefire. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani discussed a potential ceasefire in exchange for the release of hostages held in Gaza. On Tuesday, Sullivan and Al Thani stressed that the deal will focus on release of sick, wounded, elderly and women hostages and agreed to stay in regular contact. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel will allow similar number of worshippers into Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in the first week of Ramadan, as in previous years. On Tuesday,
Israel's policy has always been and always will be to safeguard freedom of worship for all faiths. This is what we have also done during Ramadan, and this is what we will do now. We will do everything to safeguard freedom of worship on the Temple Mount, while appropriately taking into account security and safety needs, and will enable the Muslim public to mark the holiday.
Let's turn to Russia-Ukraine conflict now. The governor of Russia's Kursk region, which borders Ukraine, said on Wednesday that a fuel and lubricants warehouse was on fire after being struck by a Ukrainian drone. The fuel tank was on fire at the warehouse in Kursk region, which is about 90 kilometers from the Ukrainian frontier. No casualties have been reported so far. Ukrainian drone attacks have repeatedly hit Russian oil refineries and other energy infrastructure in recent weeks. Kursk region has come under regular attack from Ukraine since the war began. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military intelligence agency said on Tuesday its sea drones hit and destroyed a Russian Black Sea Fleet patrol ship off the occupied Crimean Peninsula. The ship is one of the series of Russian vessels that have been destroyed in recent months as Kiev steps up its attacks against Russian targets deep behind the war's front lines. Earlier, Russia's defense ministry said Russian troops had beaten off Ukrainian offensives from multiple directions, including Avdiivka. On Tuesday, the ministry added Russian troops destroyed tanks, missile launch systems, drone control points, and many other US-made weapons, along with MiG-29 fighter jet, while the Ukrainian armed forces reported attacks on various Russian concentration areas of personnel and equipment, along with 76 combat engagements in the past 24 hours. It added Ukrainian forces launched attacks on multiple Russian personnel and military equipment, concentration areas, ammunition depots, anti-aircraft missiles and radars. As NATO's exercise is underway, Swedish and Finnish troops on Tuesday took part in a Nordic response NATO drill in northern Finland. The purpose of the exercise is to strengthen the defense in the high north and reinforce troops in order to be capable of carrying out a defensive joint operation in Arctic conditions. About 90,000 troops are due to join the wider NATO exercise running through the month of May. Meanwhile, Sweden, which is poised to join NATO, participates with around 3,000 people. Swedish Defence Minister welcomed Hungary's NATO ratification and said it was a very positive development that Hungarian President had signed the bill that approved Sweden's accession to NATO military alliance on Tuesday.
It is very positive, and hopefully we will now become members, and it will not be a matter of weeks but hopefully a matter of days. It will be good for Sweden and it will be good for NATO. It will be good for stability in the entire Euro-Atlantic area that Sweden can become a full-fledged member of NATO.
Haiti is facing one of its worst security crises in recent years. Haitian gang leader warned on Tuesday that chaos engulfing the capital, Port-au-Prince, will lead to civil war and genocide unless Prime Minister Ariel Henry steps down. The stark comments came from Jimmy Chagier, known as Barbecue. This came as Henry appeared to be struggling to fly home, with main airport under attack and neighboring Dominican Republic refusing permission to land. Meanwhile, the United States said it is closely monitoring the situation in Haiti. On Sunday, Haiti's threadbare government declared a state of emergency after inmates escaped in two major prison breaks. Haiti's government declared a state of emergency on Sunday after inmates escaped in two major prison breaks since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. Violent gangs have expanded control of their territories. Let's get a quick update on the Philippines-China row. Philippines on Wednesday accused China of deliberately stirring up trouble in the South China Sea. Philippine Defense Secretary said Beijing's actions are patently illegal and downright uncivilized. Philippines on Tuesday summoned China's deputy chief of mission in Manila to protest at what it called, it says, aggressive actions by Chinese naval forces against a resupply mission for Filipino troops stationed on South China Sea shoal. Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said this is not the time or reason to invoke a mutual defense treaty with the United States. The reaction came as the US earlier stressed that it stands by Philippines. The 1951 treaty between Philippines and the United States binds them to defend each other if under attack. South Korean police on Wednesday called in for questioning officials from Doctors Association over accusations that they had broken medical law. The spokesperson of the Korean Medical Association appeared before police in Seoul. The move comes after Health Ministry filed a complaint against KMA officials for violating Medical Service Act. The ministry alleged they obstructed government actions by supporting trainee doctors who walked off their jobs in protest at planned medical reforms. The government has warned that medical licenses of protesting doctors may be suspended or revoked. The trainee doctors are protesting against a government plan to increase medical school admissions by about 2,000 per year. Around 9,000 resident and intern doctors have left their job since February 20th, earlier this year. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Peruvian Prime Minister Alberto Otarola has resigned from his office after alleged corruption allegations. Earlier, an audio recording was made public in which the official was trying to influence government contracts. Otarola has refused the claims and called it a conspiracy by opposition. With Otarola's departure, the other 18 cabinet members must now also resign according to Peruvian law. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim held bilateral talks with his Thai counterpart Srettha Thaisaveen in Australia. The talks were held on the sidelines of ASEAN-Australia Special Summit. According to Malaysian Prime Minister, the discussion was focused on developments related to Malaysia-Thailand Joint Development Area. Bangladeshis are struggling with a hike in price on essential goods ahead of holy month of Ramadan, blaming the wholesalers for the increase in prices. Vendors in one of Dhaka's largest markets say that prices of essential goods such as lentils, onions and cooking oil have already shot up 30 to 40% higher than in the previous month of February. Ahead of International Women's Day, celebrated on March 8th, followed by Barbie's 65th anniversary on March 9th, Barbie has introduced one-of-a-kind dolls representing award-winning star of stage and screen as brand celebrates female storytellers. Falling in line with this, Barbie honored acclaimed actress Dame Helen Mirren with a doll made in her likeness. Time for a short break. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Devotees in Thailand pray to Buddha relics from India. Fascinating story of hand transplant in New Delhi hospital. And we talk about the growing might and importance of Indian Navy after the break.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. Welcome to Jaipur.
Commission today. Later, yeah. You're watching DT India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates India's first underwater metro rail service in Kolkata. Takes a ride with students. In a major boost to Indian Navy, second naval base INS Jatayu commissioned in Lakshadweep. Multi-role Seahawk squadron to be commissioned later today. Trump and Biden dominate Super Tuesday contest as they march towards a rematch. Biden wins 14 states, Trump takes 12. Nikki Haley scores a surprise with Vermont. Israel will allow a similar number of worshippers into Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque as in previous years during Ramadan. Gaza truce talks continue with no sign of a breakthrough. And we discuss now the growing prowess of Indian Navy and the infrastructure push. Senior defense journalist Ajay Banerjee is joining us in the studio. Ajay, welcome to News Hour. First, talk about the pace and scale of infrastructure push for the Indian Navy. Important developments today. The second naval base in Lakshadweep, developments in Karwar, also the helicopter squadron coming up.
Okay, first of all, let's start with infrastructure. Two important things have happened. Karwar is very important. Karwar in northern Goa.
Yes.
Northern Karnataka, just south of Goa. India is making or adding to its project called Seabird. Now, Seabird entails having 32 ships in Karwar, and both the aircraft carriers with the ability to berth at Karwar. Now, to explain to your listeners, aircraft carrier needs a little more gap under it to berth at a coastal jetty. Karwar now has that capacity to take in both the aircraft carriers, besides all large ships, 32 ships. This was inaugurated yesterday by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Second is the base at INS Jatayu at Minicoy. Minicoy is our southernmost island on the Lakshadweep chain. Yes. We have a small little base, one more base in Lakshadweep. This is the second base in Lakshadweep. Now, please understand there are already 4 bases on the other side, on the eastern side, that is Andaman Nicobar. We have 4 bases there. Now, out of the 4 bases on the western coast, on Lakshadweep, we have 2. Importance is that this one coming up at Minicoy is bang on the sea lane of communication which goes from Arabian Sea into Straits of Malacca. That is the importance of this one. Now, it will also entail that Indian Navy will have a full-time deployment out there. A small detachment was there for the past 40 years. Now, a full-fledged base means warships can turn around, helicopters can come and land, pilots can stay in, and the helicopters can be serviced and going back, a minor service. Now, the third point which you talk about, the helicopters, the MH-60R, it's a submarine hunting helicopter, very important. We are buying 24 for around 14,000 crore rupees from US company Lockheed Martin. It's foreign military sales. The helicopter's ability is first to hunt submarines, locate them, and also target them with missiles on board called the Hellfire missiles. These 3 things have happened which are important in the context of Indian maritime security.
Right, and if we take a macro view of the infrastructure development, do you see a good mix of imported state-of-the-art infrastructure and also indigenous development of our capabilities?
Infrastructure is entirely indigenous, especially the ones in Karwar and in Minicoy, they are Indian. The weaponry, this helicopter has come from abroad, but this probably, I believe, is the last helicopter coming from abroad because the advanced light helicopter being made by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is capable enough, and the next version will be even more capable. That's how I see it.
Right, and if we talk about the role of Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean and the international waters, with growing instances of hijacking and piracy, we've seen developments in the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden as well. Do you see a growing importance for the Indian Navy to participate in these operations?
Two things have happened. First of all, incident of piracy by pirates based out of Somalia on the eastern coast of Africa. And the second is the Houthis based in Yemen attacking multiple mercantile shipping. Now, this has added to costs of insurance via the ships going through Red Sea, through Suez Canal towards Europe. A lot of ships have changed their course and going the South African route, which is longer, 10 days longer, costs more, and insurance costs go up. Now, Indian Navy already deployed around 12 of its assets in the last week of December. After 3rd of December, these attacks started, and by the end of December, Indian Navy had 12 assets that included drones, that included P-8I maritime surveillance aircraft, that included warships on ground. And without this, you cannot claim that you are a service provider or a net security provider in the Indian Ocean. So 12 warships, we are operating independently. We are operating in the Gulf of Aden, we are operating in the Arabian Sea, and we are keeping an eye on shipping lanes of our interest, mercantile shipping headed to our country, crude oil or the goods which are going out of our country. We are keeping an eye on that.
And you also see the pace of development of the infrastructure and capability keeps pace with the rising challenges in the Indo-Pacific as the region becomes increasingly significant in strategic manner.
Yeah, it has happened. I must say, I must acknowledge in the past 10 years, the growth, the allocation of budget for the Navy and its widening of its footprint has happened drastically. Okay, we cannot match the speed of China because China is 5 times bigger than us, let us be realistic, but we are growing at a pace which is healthy. The number of our capital warships, which means bigger warships, is increasing. Our drones are adding. These are armed drones. Our surveillance capacities have gone up. We have got tie-ups with 24 or 30 countries with regards to monitoring sea lanes of communication. We have got permanent deployments in critical areas of the sea. So these are things which have happened in the past 10 years, and there is no denying about this. The growth has been phenomenal.
And if we talk about the significance of synergy of the tri-services, there's also a commanders conference underway in India. What is the role that is going to play in making sure that our capabilities are exploited in the best possible manner?
Yesterday, the Defence Minister made a very vital statement. He said that the time has come to reassess the threats and then deploy our people. Now, this reassessment of threats means that where is our threat at the moment? Our 90% of the trade moves on the sea. If that is impacted, entire cost, everything, economy will be impacted. So the Navy has to be there. Now, do we need boots on the ground? Yes, the Army is integrated with the Navy. It can land Army troops on close to shore to hold some ground. The Air Force is integrated with the Navy, and all the 3 services are integrated in operations. Like, for example, the Navy planes are repaired and are maintained by the Indian Air Force. Indian Air Force pilots have a role in the maritime security also. Army has a role of the boots on the ground. They have bases. Army brigade is posted in Andaman Nicobar Islands, and Army's detachments are there. So those 3 are working together.
On that note, Ajay, thank you very much for joining us in the News Hour, sharing your perspective. Moving on, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and his South Korean counterpart today attended the comprehensive and productive 10th India-Korea Joint Commission meeting in Seoul. Conversation covered expanded bilateral ties, cooperation in the field of defense, science and tech, business and trade, people-to-people exchange, and cultural cooperation. They also talked about advancing trilateral cooperation. 2 leaders also exchanged views on developments in the Indo-Pacific, said our convergences to challenges in the region and global issues of mutual interest. In his opening remarks, the minister called for deepening cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. Dr. Jaishankar also met Gimhae City Mayor Hong Tae-yong. Both the leaders discussed cultural and educational cooperation. Gimhae Ayodhya Connect is a testament to shared cultural heritage and long-standing people-to-people ties. In Thailand, a large number of people have assembled at the gate of Hor Kum Luang in Chiang Mai city to pay obeisance to holy relics of Lord Buddha and his foremost disciples, which have been sent by Government of India. And after their exposition in Bangkok, Lord Buddha's relics and the Arhant's relics were brought to Chiang Mai city on Tuesday in northern part of the country for 4 days. Then the relics will be taken to Ubon Ratchathani in northeastern Thailand on March 10th for next 4 days, and then to the beach town of Krabi in southern Thailand on March 15th, concluding a historic and spiritually enriching exposition in Southeast Asian country. The sacred journey will culminate on March 19th, with the relics being escorted back to their respective homes in India. In an amazing story of courage, a woman who was declared brain dead donated her organs, and her hands found their way to a painter in Delhi who was from economically weaker sections of society. The person had lost both his hands in a train accident. The doctors from Delhi Sir Gangaram Hospital have successfully performed the bilateral hand transplantation. After the successful transplant, the patient is discharged from the hospital. Let's take a look now at other stories making news. Gavra mine in eastern Indian state of Chhattisgarh is said to become the largest coal mine in Asia. The mine has been granted environmental clearance to expand production capacity to 70 million tons per annum from the current 52.5 million tons. India's Supreme Court on Wednesday dismissed the West Bengal government's plea seeking an urgent hearing on the Sandesh Khali case, which pertains to assault on Enforcement Directorate officers in January. In its order, the apex court also refused to put a stay on Kolkata High Court order, which directed the state to immediately hand over custody of ex-Trinamool Congress leader Sheikh Shahjahan in the Central Bureau of Investigation. IT giant Google has agreed to restore Indian apps it deleted from its App Store after a dispute from service fee payments. Following pushback from the government and startups, the US firm removed more than 100 Indian apps for not complying with its policy of paying a service fee when in-app payment options other than Google's are used. A sense of happiness and jubilation prevailed in and around the Jagi Road town of eastern state of Assam following the central government's cabinet approval to set up Tata's mega semiconductor project at Jagi Road paper mill ground. It is expected that more than 10,000 youth will directly get employment in this industry, while another 10,000 will benefit indirectly through Jagi Road electronic semiconductor project. And we're heading for a short break. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India's retail inflation witnesses decline for last 2 months due to government's continuous measures. Big relief for former world number 1 Simona Halep. A doping ban cut 4 years to 9 months. And Hollywood stars were in for a feast on Oscar night on Tuesday.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Updates from the world of business. India's Global Forum Annual Investment Summit Next 10 is being held in the financial capital Mumbai. In a session titled What Analysts Get Wrong About India, Union Minister Amit Shah articulated his views on narratives that often dominate Western headlines about India's growth, politics and society. Speaking in detail on changing landscape of Indian economy, Shah said, under leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the average GDP growth has reached 8.4%, which was 6.9% in 2014. Union Minister Piyush Goyal and other prominent personalities will also speak at the event.
मोदी जी ने हर क्षेत्र में पॉलिसी के आधार पर शासन का निर्णय किया। 10 साल के अंदर 40 से ज्यादा नीतियां बनाई। मैं इकोनॉमी की बात करूं तो पीएलआई की पॉलिसी, national policy on electronics, Make in India, Startup India, Stand Up India, Skill India, GST, Dhruv, Digital India, Quantum Mission, हमारी नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, स्किल की पॉलिसी, इंडियन स्पेस पॉलिसी, ड्रोन की पॉलिसी, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन, गोवर्धन और ग्रीन इंडिया, ये सारी पॉलिसी ने हमारी इकोनॉमी को शेप देने का काम किया है और पॉलिसी ड्रिवन स्टेट कैसा होता है उसका बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने दिया.
With Indian government's continuous measures, retail inflation has been declining for the last couple of months. Before February, inflation based on consumer price index remained above 5%, but is expected to decline below 5% now. According to the data released by the Centre for Monitoring Indian Economy, retail inflation to come down to 4.87% due to decline in food items and electricity prices. Food inflation will also decline to 7.9% from 8% in January. Inflation rate of species will also come from 16.4% down to 12%. Apart from species, fruit inflation will come down to 6.4% from 8.7% in January. Inflation rate of grains may come down from 7.8% to 7.3%. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has said that Muslim countries could introduce a common currency like the European Union to boost trade and commerce among them. Bangladesh PM said that while a delegation of D8 trade ministers led by Turkish Deputy Minister of Trade Mustafa Zeku called on her at her official residence in Dhaka, the D8 is an organization for economic cooperation among 8 Muslim countries: Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan and Turkey. The British government is poised to announce further tax cuts on Wednesday as part of the UK's spring budget. It's one option for a Conservative government looking to boost its popularity ahead of the next general elections. But many economic institutions say they've already gone too far, slashing taxes. Stuart Smith reports from London.
Last autumn, the government updated its spending plans. The Chancellor of the Exchequer made $25 billion of tax cuts for working people and businesses, which he hailed as a great way to reduce the cost of living and boost growth.
An autumn statement for a country that has turned a corner, an autumn statement for growth, which I commend to the House.
But it sparked a warning from the International Monetary Fund. The UN body said cutting taxes, while the UK already wrestles with underfunded services, was not a good idea. Other economists made similar warnings.
I think you can see why the UK government will be under pressure to cut taxes. It's increased them a lot since 2019. It looks like a record-breaking parliament in terms of tax rises, and it's pushing the tax burden in the UK up to levels we've not seen here before. So tax cuts would be nice to have, and they certainly can help boost growth. The problem is that tax cuts generally involve you getting less revenue, even if they do boost growth, and therefore they will require spending cuts to pay for them.
The IMF warns that lost revenue would be better retained and spent on some of the UK's most cash-strapped institutions, like hospitals and schools. It also suggests that money could be put to good use investing in ailing infrastructure and the climate transition. But bearing the brunt of cuts over the last decade has been local councils, half of whom said last week they're on track to go bankrupt within 5 years without serious funding reform. A third say they'll cut funding to parks and leisure. Another third say they'll have to cut spending on arts and culture. What the Chancellor announces on Wednesday, though, may be moot. The government might only have months left in power.
The history of UK elections shows us that we certainly shouldn't be surprised if the first 12 months after election sees pretty big tax rises, and quite often tax rises that we didn't hear about in the winning party's manifesto.
But the opposition Labour Party has largely kept its options open for now as to how it would budget the economy, though it may have to avoid traps left by the outgoing government. Its campaign so far promises more investment and better funded public services, like the IMF recommends. But the question of specifically which taxes will pay for that isn't yet public. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Let's turn to sports. In a major development for India's sportspersons, Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Singh Thakur announced that Khelo India athletes will now be eligible for government jobs. The minister posted on X, and he says, in keeping with our Honourable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of a robust sports ecosystem, nurturing talent at grassroots level and turning sports into lucrative and viable career option, Khelo India athletes will now be eligible for government jobs. I'm pleased to announce that Department of Personnel and Training, in consultation with Department of Sports, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, has made progressive revisions to eligibility criteria for sportspersons seeking government jobs. This groundbreaking step now extends eligibility to medal winners from Khelo India Games, Youth, University, Para and Winter Games to be eligible for government jobs. Additionally, games and events have been clearly defined to ensure inclusivity across various sports disciplines. These revised rules mark a significant stride in supporting our athletes in making Bharat a sporting superpower. Two-time Grand Slam champion Simona Halep was cleared for an immediate return to tennis on Tuesday after the sport's highest court determined she was not completely to blame for her failing doping test, cutting short a 4-year span to 9 months.
Former Wimbledon and French Open champion Simona Halep on Tuesday won doping appeal after the top court for global sport, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, cut short her 4-year doping ban to 9 months, a ruling that represents a major victory for the Romanian former world number 1. The Lausanne-based Court of Arbitration for Sport determined that her suspension should be reduced to 9 months, which she has already served, clearing her for an immediate return to tennis. In a statement, CAS said that it has unanimously determined that the 4-year period of ineligibility imposed by the ITF Independent Tribunal is to be reduced to a period of ineligibility of 9 months starting on 7 October 2022, which period expired on 6 July 2023. The 32-year-old Romanian was suspended in October 2022 after testing positive for roxadustat, a banned substance that promotes red blood cell production at the US Open that year. She was also charged with another doping infraction last year due to anomalies in her athlete biological passport, which is a mechanism for monitoring several blood parameters over time to detect potential doping.
She was obviously thrilled with the result. This was the result we were hoping for all along. I think Simona has, she's known all along that she didn't dope on purpose. This was an inadvertent issue with the supplement, and she's been unwavering in her belief that the result at the end would be a just result, and so it took a long time to get there, but she was happy to finally see it.
Halep has blamed contaminated supplements for her positive test at the US Open and accused the International Tennis Integrity Agency of charging her with an ABP violation after the group of experts who assessed her profile learned her identity.
Yeah, so we've already filed suit against the supplement company. That's in the very early stages. And so she intends to see that through. Whether there will be anyone else or any other entities that seek to hold to account, we don't know yet. We haven't discussed that.
An independent tribunal accepted Halep's argument that she had taken contaminated supplements, but said the volume she ingested could not have resulted in the concentration of roxadustat found in her positive sample. Furthermore, the ABP complaint was dropped because the sample taken in late 2022 was immediately after a surgery, and Halep had stated that she would not compete for the remainder of the year.
The Indian Deaf cricket team is all set to start off their Deaf International Cricket Council T20 World Cup campaign against Bangladesh today in Sharjah. DICC World Cup is an important platform to draw spotlight on the talent and cricketing skills of the specially able players. Led by Captain Virendra Singh, the Indian team is ready to go. DD India Sharad Mudgal gets us more.
The Indian Deaf cricket team will take on Bangladesh in their opening encounter of the Deaf International Cricket Council T20 World Cup 2024 in Sharjah on Wednesday. A total of 6 countries, India, Australia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, South Africa and Sri Lanka will take centre stage at the Vision Cricket Centre in Sharjah, UAE to win the title of World Champion. The Indian team, who has been preparing for months for the World Championship, sweated it out in the practice session ahead of their crucial encounter. India previously won the championship in 2022. Led by Captain Virendra Singh, the 15-member Indian team will leave no stone unturned to bring the coveted trophy home.
We are also taking care of fitness level of our players. If players will be fit, then they will be able to put their best foot forward, which will ultimately help them to win the title.
तो इन्हें भी पूरा एक अंदर से जोश है कि हम इस बार वर्ल्ड कप जीत के आए, जो आगे हमें दुनिया जाने, और जो नॉर्मल बच्चों को फैसिलिटी मिलती है तो इनको भी मिले। तो मैं तो यही गुजारिश करूँ, तो आई होप, एक सपना होता है हर किसी का वर्ल्ड कप खेलना।
The DICC T20 World Cup is an excellent platform for specially able players to showcase their prowess. It helps draw the much important spotlight on the talent and cricketing skills of these specially able players. Competing at the global level provides an excellent opportunity for players to learn and improve their skills.
The Indian Deaf cricket team is hoping for a great start with a victory in their first match. This is Sharad Mudgal reporting from UAE.
A special preview of the feast on offer for 96th Academy Awards Governor's Ball revealed a large number of mouth-watering delights. Hollywood stars can finally relax, chomp down on some fine food on Sunday's Oscar night in LA. Award-winning delicacies there. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.